perspective on the matter. So with that, I'll thank you again, Abdul, for joining us and co-hosting.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. This is like a very good experience for me too, and like a chance to talk about some of the things that DevHub does really, really well, along with just practical advice to other marketers, which I've benefited from webinars like these over the years. So happy to
absolutely
be a piece.
All right, guys, we are live on YouTube.
Okay, great. I'm going to start recording and we'll get started. All right, looks like everything's set up. So let's jump into it. Again, thank you everyone for joining us today. We are looking at 5 tactics that businesses can use to increase PPC conversion rate. So this is definitely the webinar for marketers, and we're excited to have you here and to share what we have come up with. So first things first, we're going to do some introductions. I'll start with myself first. My name is Levi. I'm a chatbot specialist here at TARS. I've been working with chatbots for over 4 years. All over the place, not only in marketing and deploying these types of deploying conversational interfaces to help jump up those conversion rates, but also across all types of industries and verticals, including government and enterprise level deployments. So we're gonna, whenever I talk, it's all about chatbots and automating conversations. And I'll hand it over to my co-host, Abdul.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit about my background, 10 years in the business, and it's all been digital media. Started with PPC and, all the way through connected TV, and just best practices for implementing each of those media channels or tactics or whatever you want to call it for all sorts of businesses ranging from SMB to enterprise. Now, in my current role, I'm at DevHub, so we're building enterprise customer experiences. So a little bit different, but related. And yeah, excited to get started talking about conversion rate optimization.
Great. Well, you kind of already just mentioned DevHub, so I'll give a little overview of TARS. We've been helping marketers boost their conversion rates using conversational tech since 2016. And what that really means is chatbots, right? In many different channels, many different strategies behind that, but that's what we primarily do, is help folks boost those conversion rates using conversational tech. You want to give a little bit more about DevHub?
Yeah, I mean, we're built for scale, right? Like businesses that want a lot of pages, that they want to set up experiences for other customers of theirs. Like we have a pretty robust reseller partner program, and drive business outcomes, right? Just making it accessible, making it easy to use, and removing barriers and obstacles, and just focusing on the business outcomes.
Great. All right, so for everybody that's joined us today, we're going to do a quick overview of what this webinar is going to look like. First and foremost, I like to say this at the start of every single webinar: feel free to ask questions whenever they come across your mind. We're happy to answer them in webinar if they're relevant to what we're talking about. We also have Arnav from the TARS team in support. He will be sharing links. He'll be answering some of those questions that we can't answer in the moment, but we also have a 10 to 20 minute Q&A session at the end. So we want to give you as much time as possible to ask us questions about this topic, but also anything else about our companies, PPC campaigns in general, CRO in general, anything that comes to your mind. We're at your disposal. So definitely stick around and feel free to ask those questions. And so what the
Arnav, by the way.
Go ahead. Yeah. So what the structure of this webinar is going to look like, we're going to talk about the CRO problem that exists currently out there, and then we're going to jump straight into our tactics. And we're going to start with DevHub and Abdul and his 3 tactics, and then we'll finish up with 2 tactics from TARS and open it up for questions and answers. So without further ado, let's jump into let's frame this problem and look at how it's affecting marketers and conversion rates. So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And although we all kind of know this, it still seems to be bubbling up to the surface every time I do a search. I land on non-relevant landing pages that I don't want to convert in the first place, but just even seeing a landing page that's not relevant to me is going to cause me to bounce right away. And this is true for many, many, many users. So the problem really is that post-click experience from that search needs more relevancy. It needs to be more engaging. It needs these things, and often we're missing these elements. And our tactics are hyper focused on bringing this problem to the forefront and solving it. And often these landing pages can feel kind of spammy. This is a common one, right? You land on it and you're like, is this even a credible company? And you'd be surprised, even some of the biggest companies out there have not great landing pages, and they're accepting really low conversion rates. I'm not sure why, but we're going to talk about that. And finally, people crave these personal interactive experiences, but the problem is static doesn't often deliver on that. So we're going to talk about how do you personalize, keep it relevant, make it interactive. And that's the problem we are trying to solve on today's webinar. So CRO to the rescue. Conversion rate optimization is really the art of overcoming this digital fatigue and driving that ROI. And I already kind of mentioned it, right? But it's really focusing on relevancy, personalization, and highly engaging experiences. Our tactics really focus on this. And without further ado, I think we're just going to jump right into that. And Abdul is going to take over and start discussing his side of the tactics.
Yeah, thank you for teeing that up. Here, let me figure out how to control this screen.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Let's see.
Yeah, you should be able to just click share screen, and I stopped sharing, so make it easy for you.
Oh, geez. You know, Levi, it might be easier if you continue sharing, and
okay,
I'll just have you.
Yeah. Yep, go ahead. No worries.
Yeah, landing page basics, like Levi mentioned, you know, you see a lot of static pages. You see a lot of like pages that, yeah, you can go to the next slide. You can go to the next slide. First impressions are everything, right? Like mobile optimized, fast load times, and native. You know, the first two, mobile and fast load times, I think they're pretty self-explanatory, right? Like you want to deliver like that technology experience where people aren't kept waiting. Native is the one that I really want to focus on. You see a lot of landing pages using like a SaaS platform or something that doesn't have a native URL, or it's using a template of some sort that doesn't actually match the brand, right? So if you have an engaged user, you're answering their search query, you have some good content, but you're throwing up these like technology signals where it doesn't come across that you're really, you know what you're doing, or that it might be a phishing or something, right? Like it just doesn't lead to trust. So I feel like part of the basics should be a native experience, one that's on your website that leaves it, you know, gives the user an opportunity to explore your website, learn about your business, and, you know, decide to engage with you, right? It should reflect the brand and the look and feel of the page. It builds credibility, and I feel like it needs to be there. Like it's a requirement, at least in today's, you know, today. Get the basics right and improve your conversion rate. Again, this is a really great chart. I sourced this from Google. You know, 1 to 3 seconds waiting is, you know, probability of bounce increases 32%. And from there, that just increases exponentially. You know, when you can get your messaging, your content in front of an engaged consumer that's looking for something then and there, it's, you know, it's a pleasant experience. And again, lends credibility, builds trust, establishes authority, and really just shows that you know what you're doing, right? Next slide, please. And that's what we're talking about, right? When it comes to the basics, really, when you have a visitor, especially coming from a search campaign, you want to satisfy them, you want to give them what they're looking for, establish that credibility and authenticity, and improve conversion, right? Oftentimes, this is the first time they're coming across your business. It's the first time they're coming across your messaging, and you want to make sure that it comes from a place of authority. So, get the basics right, and you're well on your way to converting, or at least improving your conversion rate. Next up is dynamic message matching. Next slide, please. So this can come across as a little bit daunting. How do you dynamically match messages? But you're probably doing it with your search ads already. And it's very easy to apply those same parameters so that you can speak to your audience on your page as well and continue that conversation, right? Like, don't look at it as a way of getting somebody in and then presenting them with a different message, but continue that conversation, help them achieve their goal, whatever their intent was. Your ad is relevant to the search query. Your landing page should be too. There's probably a takeaway there. And you can do that dynamically. Next slide, please, Levi. Search traffic is a high intent traffic. So we talked about the CRO problem at the top of the call, where pages can be static, they can be not relevant. And that really clashes with how search works. It's high intent traffic, and meaning, I need this information right now in this moment, and optimizing for that moment is crucial. And to do that, personalization is required. And, that can apply to images too, which, I've seen marketers going, hey, you can do that. Like, they don't even realize that that's a possibility to do, right? For example, if you're promoting a product that can be used in your home or in your office, based on the type of search query that you get, you can, show a product image off that's based in the home or the office, right? So again, aligns with the expectations, aligns with the search. Next slide, please. Here are some examples of message matching that you could pull off on a landing page. So, there are all sorts of different search types, and, align your content to the type of search that is coming in or is resulting in that visitor visiting your landing page. It could be a product search, your CTA should be aligned to that buy now and display that specific product instead of like a catalog of products and leaving the user to, to find it on their own. Questions, if you've got good content and you get a lot of questions that you surface for your clients on other places of your website, learn to recognize what a question looks like from search and surface that relevant content right on the page. And same goes for reviews, right? So for a highly engaged shopper that's comparing different products from different businesses, they want to know, what the experience is like doing business with you, how the product works, whatever it might be. Display your star rating, put it right in front of them so that they don't have to go looking for it or, give up trying to look for it. Again, just being highly relevant in the moment. And that's the effect you're going for. The next slide will, talk to that a little bit. Again, credibility, build authority, and be relevant. Like, that is the ultimate goal for conversion rate optimization, right? Like, be in the moment, optimize for the moment, optimize for the search, optimize for the user and what they're trying to accomplish. And if you can achieve relevance with your page, I mean, it's easier to do than you might think, for sure. And that leads us to optimizing. Keep testing. Like, this is what CRO is to me, really. It boils down to keep optimizing, keep iterating, keep moving forward, and keep trying new things. And the tools that you use to do that should allow for that, right? So oftentimes cumbersome UIs, dashboards, CMSs, or, just not having the knowledge to quickly execute on the initiatives that you want to execute on. So your tools should align with that. And you can do it from a spreadsheet, right? This is something that DevHub excels at. It's something that has become a core product. It's something we offer to some of our clients as an option that, wanted an accessible CMS didn't want to take the time to learn and train on a CMS and then train their staff on it. And there's nothing more accessible than a spreadsheet. And when you lay out all your data, like this list that we have here is just, a small segment of all the variables, all the types of content, all the types of elements in your experiments that you're doing with your campaigns. Mix and match, these are, look at it as cooking. And these are the ingredients that you have available to you. Mix and match, come up with a different flavor, one that resonates, and a meal that your customers or visitors would like, right? Like, again, I mean, I don't know how much more I could say this, but testing, right? Keep testing for the results that you're looking for. When you have the tools in place, when you have the content in place, when you have the ideas in place and the framework in place, you end up with an empowered CRO program. Keep learning, keep iterating, keep improving. Those are the tactics that I'd recommend, at least to start. And once you get going, there's nothing stopping you.
Great. That was fantastic. A couple things to add on top of those tactics. I was actually just reading a LinkedIn post today about credibility and authenticity. That these are two elements to pretty much like whenever we interact with a person or with a brand in their digital domain, these are the two first things that come up into our mind. Is it credible? Is it authentic? I can't say it. It doesn't matter. But what we're really, what you're talking about, that relevancy, right? That's that authenticity that we're looking for. When it's relevant, it feels authentic. And when it's made in a way that doesn't, seem spammy or overly wordy, then that's where we get our credibility from, right? We can leverage those reviews and things of that nature to make people realize that we've been around here, we've been doing this, we're successful, you can trust us, and that happens very quickly. So these elements and being able to iterate them is incredibly important to an overall strategy. So thank you so much for those tactics. They were great. Now we're going to jump into how conversational marketing, conversational interfaces come into this picture. So we're going to start first with conversational lead capture. You can also just kind of think of this as conversational conversion as well, but we're looking a little bit more at what it looks like with lead capture in particular. So this is maybe a hard pill to swallow, but the truth of the matter is that customer journey becomes incredibly boring at the moment they click that CTA to convert, right? So that landing page, you've done a really good job. It's been relevant. You click that button and then they get a form or something of that nature in front of them. So they were really highly engaged up to that moment. And then now they have to go through this very boring, not really fun experience and very transactionally forward feeling, right? So now I'm not on this experience. I feel very transactional, and I want to still feel that joy, I guess, of converting, of wanting this particular item, or buying this item or downloading this white paper. I'm excited about that, and that conversion experience can make or break, because just because they click that CTA doesn't mean that they're actually going to convert, right? They might see that form and drop immediately. And this is true. It happens all the time. And at TARS, we've been looking since 2016 on how to fix that problem, because forms are just something that we've all been dealing with for a really long time. But I think collectively, the whole world can get together and say, we don't really enjoy that experience, but we put up with it if we really, really want the product or really want the download. Or we make the form so simple that anybody can fill it out. What's your first name? What's your email? That's how forms have really evolved into the modern age to overcome that. We make it super simple, but the problem with that is we're not really getting a lot of information about our prospective buyer or learning much. So we have to then take that minimal amount of information and put a whole bunch of work on the back end. And that's kind of the dirty little secret with forms is if we have to do hours and hours and hours of extra work to qualify the leads, to understand the company that they're coming from, for example, in a lead capture situation, and if they're a relevant customer to us, that's a lot of time, a lot of human hours, and it's not really getting the job done because the intent is there when they click that CTA. So if I have to take 3 hours to figure out the structure and understand this person before I can even interact with them and try and convert them in their buyer journey, that is way too late. They've already moved on. So we are talking about how to effectively engage that person at the point of their intent and get the most value out of that interaction. So naturally, right, we're going to create interactive conversational experiences to solve this problem. And it has a lot, this really connects a lot with what Abdul was saying about creating that relevant experience. Well, chatbots do that, and they can do it in a very simple way. They can also do it in a very complex way. Similar to what he was mentioning in that opening tactic, matching your relevant messaging to the relevant keyword searches that brought them there in the first place is something we actually do and have talked about doing with TARs, where we can actually identify the keywords that brought them there in the first place and jump the conversation to messaging that is very relevant to what they were searching for, to like very, nuanced versions of the copy that they're going to get. And that will also lead to dynamic outcomes. And what that means is when people are interacting with a chatbot, they're actually being branched, right? They're being moved around a very large workflow. They don't see that. They don't feel that. It feels like a very streamlined conversation for them. But on the back end, we are qualifying them. We're moving them around to different outcomes and segmenting them and doing a lot of the work that humans usually have to do through this conversation. So the users engaged, but they're also delivering us all of that value that we traditionally have had to do manually. So it's really a win-win between the business and the customer to use these strategies. And I'll just say this because it's true, and Abdul mentioned this, but we have literally been converting through conversation since we've been interacting with each other, the dawn of humans. But that really hasn't been anything that we could scale. Conversations are hard to scale because traditionally it's been a human-to-human interaction. Chatbots are the solution to that. They are the scale to conversation. You can scale to millions of conversations and keep it all relevant to the user. So it's really, we're at a turning point in that static experience of the web, and we're coming into a much more engaging, but also traditionally converting tactic, right? Which is conversation.
Something I've noticed about these. Sorry, yeah, no, something I've noticed, like Postclick, these, like the search campaigns are usually really great at getting the buyer in. And I've noticed that, like, at least many of our clients, they have the content already, right? But they don't have the sophistication to surface that content. And the user that came in Postclick, they don't have the patience, or they aren't willing to look it up, right? So putting it at their fingertips, either with like something like dynamic message matching or chatbots, or the two in conjunction with each other, right? Like one message up top and another one teed up in the chatbot. So you can actually gauge and capture that attention and put it at their fingertips. And like you said, that's where all this is going, right? It's very transactional and very on demand. So yeah, I like what you're doing with it.
Thank you. I do a question from, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name, so I'm just going to take a shot. Feel free to correct me, but Mufi, how do you automate form filling for a huge field list with many API integrations? That's a great question. A lot of what we do, and we're kind of talking about this already in tactics, right? Rapidly iterating. For TARs and how we approach it, we have a visual no-code workflow builder. So you're literally building out all of these nuanced conversations and able to jump to any point of them our chatbots can actually be very large. I would say some of the largest in the industry, just from personal experience, having built over 1,000 point interaction chatbot systems. It excels at this. And when we're talking about API integrations, guess what? With our system, you can trigger them at any point in the conversation with anything that has an API integration. So you literally have full autonomy over connecting with all your different APIs, as well as native integrations with, say, Zapier, to make it really easy and super no code, superpower through the whole experience. So we definitely have solutions for that. And if you'd like to talk about that in more detail, we're happy to take it offline and discuss and demo that for you. And I'll answer your question about the WhatsApp commerce bot at the end, just to cover that. So yeah, so the effect of this is really high engagement rates. I've actually ran a campaign personally that I built from the ground up using a web, almost a landing page. It was a little bit bigger than a landing page, and a chatbot added together and working together, and it produced, and still does, it's actually an ongoing, like, running for years type of campaign, and it's held consistently a 60% engagement rate. And that has led to really fantastic conversion rates as well, because the key to the castle really is that engagement, right? Being able to engage folks, just like Abdul had mentioned, engaging them is what brings them in and creates that opportunity to optimize your conversion rate. And of course, 50% increase in conversion rates. And this is compared to forms. So many of our customers have realized this value within a month of deploying a chatbot over their forms. So it's a fantastic number. It's very consistent, and it does great things for folks that work with us. And this is key, right? I talked about chatbots being the scale to conversations, and that's literally what it is. You can scale to demand instantaneously. There's other tactics like live chat that you can implement, but they do not have that scaling factor. There is only so many conversations a human can handle at a time, and the chatbot is there to bring that scale. And of course, right, so you're going to lower your CPL, and you're going to get a much higher ROI with all of these factors in. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that buyer's journey, that customer journey, and what actually gets them stuck. There's a bit of a bottleneck that can occur, and how to overcome that. So this is about proactive customer service. And again, Abdul had mentioned a little bit about this, like, how do you get those FAQs, those frequently asked questions that stop a customer from actually converting? How do you get that up in front of their face, right? So they can get answers to their questions. I personally, whenever I'm on Amazon or literally anywhere, I guarantee you I will go to the FAQ section and see what people are asking the company and if they're responding to it. And if there is, one, no questions, I'm a little worried, because that tells me that nobody's really engaged with this product. And two, if there are questions and the company isn't answering them, or they're giving a really, like, non-answer, they're putting a comment there, but they're not answering, that is a red flag to me too. So, like, do they even back their product up, right? So FAQs, being able to actually get answers to your questions, is a key element. And it really depends on what we're talking about. This could be commerce, e-commerce. It could also be lead capture, right? It doesn't really matter. We have questions before we want to give out our information, before we want to give you our money. And we haven't really done a great job of addressing that problem. Most companies take FAQs, they stuff them in the bottom, and nobody reads them, right? They're just not really relevant to the moment of intent. They're hidden at the bottom. And if somebody is at that vague stage of, like, maybe they want to buy, that's too far away. They need to be engaged at the moment of their questions. So we're really talking about a bottleneck here. it all relies on your ability to answer those questions in real time. And again, we can't do this with humans. It's nearly impossible to have a traditional call center that's available 24/7 unless you're a massive corporation that just has money to throw at it, and they still don't have all the money in the world to throw at it. It's not really feasible for them to have that type of support structure if it's not leading, if it's hard to keep up, if the wait times increase, there's downtimes, there's up times, it's hemorrhaging a lot of money. So of course, the solution then, right, is our chatbots and automating those FAQs so that, and targeting it to specific moments to answer questions. Now, what this looks like is, say you have landed on a landing page and there's a product there and there's a button to learn more. Traditionally, when you click that, it either brings you down to the bottom to like an FAQ stage, right? And it takes you out of that conversion funnel and drops you down on the page somewhere else where you're kind of losing that momentum, losing that intent. Or they open up a new page, which is even worse, right? You've literally just broke the entire experience. You've taken them off of where you were being relevant and engaging them, and you've literally loaded a new page in front of them. So what we have experimented with and deployed for our clients, and I've personally deployed, is actually being able to click that learn more button and a chat bot pops up on screen and says, oh, great, you're interested in this product, right? Incredibly relevant, right at the moment of intent, right there in front of the user to start answering those questions. And the truth of the matter is, most of your questions are repetitive. 70 to 80% of questions that folks get are repetitive questions that can be answered through a simple quick tap menu. And that's how we have been approaching FAQs for a really long time. And again, this scales instantaneously to demand, which is really important when we're looking at CRO in the long term. So what the effect of this strategy is, again, like I mentioned, 70% of repetitive queries can be answered through a chatbot. We actually have a client that sells prescription eyewear glasses, and they have, this is their stat right here. They have automated 70% of their repetitive queries using a chatbot for us. Another really interesting fact about that is they're on the East Coast in Florida, and when I might get the hurricane wrong, Hurricane Irma hit, they have a traditional call center and it went completely down because of the bad weather, but their chatbot stayed up and was continually engaging with customers through the whole time. So they kept a 70% relevancy, I guess, to those customers. They're able to answer those questions, and they continued even through the disaster to build revenue for them, make conversions. So that's a superpower in itself right then and there. And also, when you target these questions to a product, like when they click that learn more button, you're going to see a growth of 10% on your macro conversion rates. And what I mean by macro is your true goal, right? Your revenue generating conversions. Your micro conversions are that white paper, that newsletter sign up, those things. You're going to see even bigger growth there because that's a lot less barrier to entry, right? Just giving my email up is pretty easy. I'm okay with that, or my phone number. So creating that engaging experience with the user through the chatbot and making it still simple to convert is going to skyrocket your conversion rates through chatbots. Yeah, and that is pretty much all we have. I think we went through it pretty good. We left just enough time. What I mean by that is the high end of our time for questions, and we already have quite a few over here to answer. So before we get into that Q&A, here's our contact details. Absolutely feel free to reach out to us to talk about any of this stuff. We're happy to give a demo, and I'm sure on your side, Abdul, that you're exactly the same space. Happy to talk about the product and learn more.
Yeah, I learned a lot. Like, I love that example that you shared with the learn more button leading to a chat bot. Very creative, and it doesn't move the user around the page, right? Which is, it can be disorienting. So yeah, just at your fingertips, literally. is very, very cool.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're in the question phase, and I have quite a few. They're pretty much all chatbot related. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading them off. So the first question is, how do you ensure end-to-end WhatsApp commerce bot? And Arnav, maybe you would be better off jumping in here because you recently just did a webinar all on WhatsApp chatbots and our brand new WhatsApp notification campaign feature that we've released on our dashboard, and maybe even drop that link for to be able to
Sure.
watch that as well.
I don't fully understand what the question is asking. Maybe if you could add a little more context. I'm not quite sure what an end-to-end WhatsApp commerce bot means. So a little more context around that will help us answer it better. I'll give my best attempt based on what I understand, though. How do we ensure an end-to-end WhatsApp commerce bot? I mean, I'm thinking end-to-end from discovery all the way to conversion. I mean, generally speaking, a lot of the discovery channels that people have for WhatsApp chatbots tend to start on a website. They can jump onto the bot itself if you like have your number listed somewhere to begin the conversation that way. And then on the conversion side, if I'm not mistaken, you can't really accept payments through a WhatsApp chatbot right now, so you will probably have to take them somewhere else to complete the conversion. But you can do most things in a WhatsApp chatbot, especially as it pertains to lead gen. So you can book meetings, you can book meetings, you can capture leads. Whatever you can do through a web-based chatbot, you can do through a WhatsApp chatbot. And I mean, this sort of answers your next question as well. How easy is it to replicate one journey from a channel like WhatsApp to another channel like a PWA? I mean, essentially the backend flow on the TARS builder can be deployed in either direction. Just the way it appears to the user will be slightly different because one obviously will appear in WhatsApp and the other one will obviously appear on the web. But the back end, as far as the back end flow is concerned, from our end, where you make it in our tool, you can take a chatbot that you create, you can deploy it to both WhatsApp and web. In fact, every WhatsApp chatbot that you make on the TARS builder also has a web version that you can use. So, I mean, these two questions kind of relate to each other in terms of the end-to-end nature of a WhatsApp bot. Whatever you do with your web-based chatbot, you can essentially do the exact same thing with your WhatsApp chatbot because they essentially have the same back-end flow.
Great. Yeah. The only difference is now that we have those notifications, you can actually start pushing out campaigns to your lists, which you can't really do with the web. I mean, you can through other channels, pushing out and trying to get them to click that that link for that post-click experience. But with WhatsApp, we've actually built that into our product. So it's fantastic. And I know clients are loving it right now, and there's a lot of campaigns flying out there on WhatsApp. So it's great. Okay, and we have one more here, and that's, how is your architecture robust in terms of handling multiple conversations? We can scale concurrently to millions of conversations. We have enterprise level clients that are doing massive volume, basically daily, from really all over the world. So we're deployed in over 90 countries, and from scales from small SMB to enterprise level clients that are doing massive volume. So our infrastructure in terms of that is solid. It's AWS if you want to know more of the specifics, but yeah, and I don't know if we even have anybody from our product team on right now. We don't, so they would probably be able to give you the real down and dirty behind it. But yeah, the architecture is solid and is easily scalable to the demand as it comes in. So great. Doesn't look like we have any more questions at this time. So I'll give everybody a minute to throw any last questions out there. We are doing pretty good on time, so feel free. We'll wait around for a couple more minutes and see if anybody has a couple last questions for us. Otherwise, we'll wrap this webinar up.
I've got one. Like, what type of campaigns are best suited? Like, what sort of goals do you see when somebody implements a chatbot for a specific campaign?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, most of the clients that have put these out are looking for some type of lead gen, some type of value add to that to the folks that land either on a landing page with a chatbot in support, or through our conversational landing pages, which is literally just the chatbot. And they go straight to the chatbot, and it looks like a landing page, and the chatbot it's in basically what looks like a phone, and the page background scales for desktop, and it shrinks to mobile and fits perfectly on mobile. It's really a mobile first type application, so your mobile traffic users are going to love it, and everybody else is going to enjoy it too, because it's still that same feeling. But yeah, really lead gen, those value ads. I think they're great for getting somebody in the top of funnel for sure. And then beyond that, which we're not really discussing today, but then they really can literally follow the customer through their entire journey and provide value adds, because what you're doing is automating business process, and displaying it in a way that's much easier for the customer to consume and interact with, but also is automating tons of things on your back end. To save tons of time. So as far as that upfront PPC campaign goes, yeah, definitely lead gen is top notch. But if you're looking at commerce, that's where we start talking about automating those FAQs, right? That learn more about the product or whatever that may be, where you can engage them relevant right there when they're on the teetering edge of buying or not.
Very cool. Accessible customer experiences. All right.
100%.
That's what we're.
Great. Looks like no more questions. And so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Again, thank you so much, Abdul, for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Lots of value in what you shared, and really looking forward to seeing.
Collaborating with you guys, learning about your platform, and I hope we can integrate one day and work together. Not just with webinars, but with. That would be.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll definitely start that conversation. So again, thank you all for joining us. That will do it for us today, and look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.